This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Hello and welcome to Broad Radio. I'm Jo Stanley and my co-host today is the hilarious and brilliant Nelly Thomas. Hi there, Nelly.
No pressure.
I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true.
Oh, well, that's true. I think I'm feeling lockdown pressure, but I will take the compliment. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, look, I tell you what, I started the day feeling a bit flat, I think, as the world is. I mean, we're in the eastern side of Australia, which is largely in lockdown, and it's a pretty difficult time. Melbourne has had a bit of a knockabout in the last 24 hours, and I was feeling a little flat, and then I've spent the last hour chatting with you, and I feel so much better. You're a delight, Nelly.
Oh, bless. Look, I think it's true. Like, all jokes aside, it's serious, isn't it? Like, if you actually can summon the kind of energy to connect with a friend, you know, or like have a laugh, or like try and find some point of connection, because we literally, our neural pathways need that, you know, as we have been in lockdown for so long. I mean, did you see that hideous thing the other day? I think Melburnians have been in lockdown more than 200 days or something, was some hideous amount where I went, oh. But on the flip side, I also think, okay, that's why I feel like this then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's an acknowledgement, you know, when you're feeling tired, or my memory is definitely affected. I'm finding it hard to read, you know, things like that. And I kind of feel a bit stupid.
That's so interesting.
I go, oh, I'm not stupid. It's lockdown.
Yeah, you're so right. I sit and look at a book, and somehow the words it takes such concentration sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought it had been the lockdown wine that was having the impact, which I
think it's I mean, this is obviously my lay understanding, but I heard a neurologist talking about it the other day, and he was saying literally different neural pathways are activated by social interaction, by water cooler conversations, by, you know, a whole range of things that we are not currently having. And so quite literally parts of the brain aren't firing.
Oh,
so
geez.
When you sit down to read a book, I like read the same page 3 times and then think, oh, I'll just go and watch The Voice.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to that in a minute, because I know that you're a super fan of reality TV. We'll get to that in a minute. Just letting you know what is on the show today. We really want this to be an uplifting show today, because we're aware that the headlines are pretty tricky to digest at times. So we've got a super fun show. Later in the show, Bec Goddard, AFLW coach for the Hawks, is joining us. She's an absolute delight. Stick around for that. We're also going to be speaking with some beautiful Broad Radio listeners who are going to share with us the things that are lifting them throughout their days. We have the glorious singer-songwriter Emma Donovan singing for us, and we're going to also be speaking about climate change. It is bleak, but there's hope. We're going to find out how we can find hope in and amongst the future of our planet when we speak with CEO of Climate for Change, Lena Herrera Piekarski. She's going to be joining us soon as well. That's all coming up after this.
Broad Radio is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse, great savings every day.
Alrighty, a little bit of housekeeping at the top. If you're watching on Facebook, it would be awesome if you would like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe as well. And it would be lovely if you'd like to make comments along the way as you're watching. We do love it when you engage with us and join the conversation. You can catch up later on via podcast with our Broad Radio On The Go podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we do run every week, we run a one question poll. It's our More to Say poll, because we want to just get a test of the temperature of the room. And in the last week, actually, Nelly, we asked the question about reality TV, because it is everywhere at the moment. It's reality TV season. We gave people the option of being unashamedly a fan. Well, I hate them all. It's a vacuous waste of time. Or it's a guilty pleasure, but I don't necessarily admit. What do you reckon? Do you reckon the majority of Broad Radio listeners are fans of reality TV?
I'm going to say yes.
You're
I'm going to say somewhere between yes and guilty pleasure.
You're correct. Only 35% said they hate them and that it's a vacuous waste of time. So that is the caliber of our audience.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
You love them.
I do love them, and I find it a really interesting question because people, I mean, this sounds completely up myself, but people don't expect me to like reality TV. Like, I think if you present in any way as being thoughtful, you know, reflective, intelligent, that you like, how could you possibly enjoy reality TV? But mate, I have the same view of sport. You know, like I could like give you a critique of the culture of football and the effect of that, the toxic masculinity on society. I'm not sure why that's any better or worse than Survivor. I can watch it critically. You know, I don't just swallow it. I don't just watch it and kind of go, oh, well, now I think I need a boob job. You know,
I think people think that reality TV and, you know, let's say there's sort of Survivor, which is maybe the reality TV with some sort of, people think there's some.
That's the good one.
That's the good one, right? And then it goes down in scale to, I don't know, Bachelor or whatever, or the worst is Love Island, I guess. But, you know, I suppose people think that it's the fall of civilization. Because what does it mean for us as humanity?
Yeah, but people thought Shakespeare was the fall of civilization as well because he was a serialist. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to compare maths to Shakespeare. And I do think there's obviously a critique to be had. Like, I think there's a vast difference between Survivor, of which I'm a massive fan, and something like Married at First Sight, which I think is brutal exploitation, particularly because there's health professionals involved. Like, that's a whole different scenario to have 3 health experts encouraging toxic behaviour, as far as I'm concerned, as opposed to Survivor, which is kind of, it's a bit of a laugh, really, isn't it? It's an interesting behaviour. Absolutely, I'm mad for it.
Yeah.
Mad for it.
I mean, it is such a beautiful example of team interplay and leadership and relationships, and it's so fantastic. It's super interesting, and it really started almost as an experiment, didn't it, of human behaviour, Survivor?
See, I always wonder with that one with Jeff Probst. I'm like, do you believe that, buddy? Because he's the host of American Survivor, and I think one of the creators. He's actually a psychologist by training, right? So I think, do you really think this is a social experiment, or do you just know that we like to watch this stuff? Like, I sort of waver. But either way, I think it's very interesting sociologically. Like, even on the level of looking at Australian Survivor compared to American Survivor, it is so much less diverse. Our population isn't, but the casting still is so much less diverse. And there's an interesting conversation to be had in that, in reality TV.
Not reflecting reality at all.
Right.
Yeah. Also, I mean, and this is an aside, but a missed opportunity with this particular season of Australian Survivor, because it's in the outback and there's no Aboriginal imagery. There's absolutely no embracing of the culture or the histories or the stories. Why? Yeah. I'm so disappointed in that.
Yeah, I mean, there was one Aboriginal contestant, Gavin Wanganeen, but I think he was on more because he's a famous footballer than anything, and he did get voted out early. But yeah, there seems to be a missed opportunity in that. I mean, reality TV in general, I think, is quite interesting. Obviously, being in my industry, a lot of us don't like it because it takes away from funding of dramas and, you know, where are actors going to get roles and things like that. But I guess my argument would be, especially in Australia, drama has historically, when reality TV started, been so white and so, you know, everything, able-bodied and straight and all the rest of it. And then reality TV popped in with far more diversity, reflecting the population, and people had a thirst for it. People like to see themselves on TV. So, you know, I think it's been helpful in that sense. You look at Australian Idol. Can you imagine Casey Donovan at 16, an overweight 16-year-old Aboriginal goth? Imagine her walking in to a music studio and saying, "Can I have a deal?" They would have gone, "No chance, darling."
Yeah.
And she won.
Yeah. And she's glorious. And what a
She's
contribution to our industry she is. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, thank goodness. No, I agree. I think there's some amazing things about reality TV. So there you go. That was our recent More to Say poll. So next week, the poll that's up at the moment, we're actually next week going to have on the show former MP Kate Ellis, who is extraordinary, right? So we're actually, she brings a really honest perspective of what it's like to be a member of Parliament. So for this week's poll, we are asking the question, and this is serious, more than ever, we need people who represent us in the Parliament. So have you ever thought of running for Parliament?
Oh. Yeah.
I sit in the yikes, no thanks category.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I've got a degree in politics.
Right.
So, and a very quick funny story. I toured with Maria Bamford, the American comedian, a long time ago, and we shared a hotel room with her mum, Marilyn. And that was quite an experience, let me tell you. And Marilyn, may she rest in peace, she would just wake up every morning, she'd go, Nelly Thomas, you are going into politics. And I'd be like, I'm really not interested in that, Marilyn. You're doing it. You're doing it. So I'm like, I've got the vibe of the politician thing, but I don't think I'm tough enough, honestly.
Yes.
I think I'm too soft in the heart for that.
Well, you know, there's a lot of talk around how it is extremely tough, particularly for women. So I look forward to speaking with Kate Ellis about that. But we would love you. Head along to broadradio.com.au, fill in that one answer question, and you go in the running to win a beautiful Love Your Hands hamper pack from Saba Organics, one of the world's only 100% certified organic skincare range. Absolutely beautiful there. So head along and answer that. We want to know, would you go into politics? I certainly would not, but we need people to stand up and do it. Right. Now, Nelly, you might have felt like you need to run for Parliament when the IPCC released their report on climate change last week. How's this for a segue? Because
I did.
Well, our government is letting us down, certainly when it comes to climate change. And this particular report was really damning about the human influence and how we are responsible for global warming, but also particularly damning with regards to Australia. But what can we do as individuals? So let's welcome our first guest to help us understand better what we can do as individuals. She is co-CEO of Climate for Change, Lena Herrera Piekarski. Hello, Lena. How are you going?
Good. Hello, Joe. Hello, Nelly. Nice to see you both.
Thank you so much for joining us on Broad Radio. Can you tell us just very quickly, for those of us who have tried to read the report and found it a little overwhelming, what's the main gist that the IPCC report told us?
Yes. For those who feel like it's too much to read it, I also recommend reading the documents from the Climate Council, which summarize really well the report in itself. So it confirms that climate change is already wreaking havoc throughout the world, such as the mega fires we experienced here in Australia in the summer of 2019-2020, the fires in Athens this month, the heat waves in Canada, the US, the floods in my home country, Germany, all of them having horrible effects on people, wildlife, and killing people around the world. And worse is to come. So the frequency and the intensity of those extreme weather events, such as floods and heat waves, is going to increase. And particularly in Australia, that means we're going to experience more and longer fire seasons, such as the mega fires. We're going to have more droughts. We're going to have summers of 50 degrees in Melbourne, which I really don't want to imagine. And that's all quite bleak, but there is still hope. And that's what I hold on to. And I hope you all can hold on to it. The report shows that there's a really narrow pathway for us to at least avoid climate catastrophe. And if we can take actions today, which means for our government to do a 180-degree turn and stop all new investments into coal and gas, we can still make a difference in our lifetime and the lifetime of our children who are about to be born, and the next generations.
Well, when the report came out, it was at the same time as there was reports of, 48, 49 degree days in Greece.
Yeah.
And at the same time as COVID's happening. And one of the things that I kept seeing is, COVID is kind of a dry run for this. If we can't come together, even in Australia as states, let alone as an international community to deal with COVID. I'm going bleak before we go happy. how are we going to cope with climate change? Does that make sense?
Actually, that makes totally sense. And I think if you think about COVID could have hit Australia just during the mega fires, right? Like it was just a month between when we actually in February then had the first wave. And like imagine it would have happened at the same time. Our capacity to having support communities that were recovering and at the same time would have experienced COVID would have been terrible. So we were lucky in 2020 in that sense. And I think so I'm going to go into hope again, like that's my default. I think actually our response to COVID is quite uplifting when it comes to climate change. In the climate movement, we're saying if we could respond to climate change the same way we're responding to COVID, which is like listening to the science. We have not been listening to the science in climate change for the last 30 years. We can respond accordingly. We're taking quite drastic measurements we need to address the global pandemic. We need those same drastic measurements for addressing climate change, and they're actually much more nicer for your life if you want. So going 100% renewable makes also better, cleaner air. Having a more sustainable world is actually a better world to live in. So we needed the same approach we had to COVID for climate change, and we need it now.
So when you talk about response to COVID, it's very much, we hear from our leaders, but the response has to be individual. And I guess there's a I suppose, an analogy there as well, in that we want a response from our government. That frequently is disappointing in Australia, I think. Most of us feel that way. But there has to be an individual response as well. And that's where I feel like the hope has to be. What can I do? What action can I take that I know is going to have an impact?
The biggest action you can take is call your MP, pressure the current government to take action, because any individual action you can do, such as go plastic free, is great to reduce waste, but it's not going to get us the changes we need on time to actually avoid catastrophic climate change. We're going into federal election next year, so now is the moment to keep calling, go for government, like go do what you just did in the poll and put up your hand yourself, make politics better. Put pressure onto the parties and don't allow the big parties to avoid addressing a catastrophe that we're facing. At the same time, something that can be easier to do is to have conversations like we're having right now about climate change, realize that you're not alone, connect with community and take action together, call your MPs.
So it's really, Lena, you're calling for, that's interesting. I think that's really clear to call for. Obviously we all try and do the little things that we can do, or the even big things, but the main game really is we have to assert political pressure. We have to be like citizen activists and let the people who are making the really important decisions know that we're furious.
Yes, that's the only way forward. And let them know that if they don't, we're going to vote them out and there's no future for them in politics.
Oof.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyway, but I can still do that. I can. Can I ask you a quick question about kids? Because I've got a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old now. And one of the things that I really struggle with is that I feel a responsibility to educate them about climate change and all of the changes that are happening in the world. But I also think it's a terrible burden at that age when they didn't create this problem and nor can they fix it on their own. So I have that sense of I don't want to give them anxiety, frankly, about, little turtles with plastic bags, you know what I'm saying? So it's a balancing act. What do you think about that?
That they probably already feel anxiety, to be honest. There was a study in 2019 done that from Reach Out that in Australia 4 out of 5 kids, young children, in the age group of your kids, are already feeling anxiety about climate change. They're worried what it means for their future. A lot of them are considering not having children in their future. So I think the only way to address this is actually have the hard talk with your kids. The Climate Council has really good resources for parents to have conversations with their children on climate change and give them the space to air their concern and then connect with others. This is our conversation guide from Climate for Change, which helps you to have conversations with everyone, from your family, from your denialist to your supportive friend, and then allow your kid to air their concern and then maybe think about actions they can take because that gives you hope and connect with others. So for your children, I would recommend if they get really like they want to do something. AYSC, the Australian Youth Climate Coalition, is an amazing group of young kids and young children, teenagers, who like really putting the way forward on action on climate change. So it would be a great community to join up, or like start a group in your school and then take little actions that might be like reduce plastic, or call your MP as well. Why not? Say, I'm concerned for my future, like you gambling with my life. And I don't want you to stop with it.
I love the idea of our kids calling the MPs. Yes. How can they ignore children? You mentioned there, I mean, climate anxiety is real. I didn't realise this until I started investigating even Climate for Change, your organisation, Lena. Climate anxiety is real. How can we manage that in ourselves?
Yeah, I think similar tips. I think the first one is acknowledge that it's happening. Like I think it's happening to every single Australian. If you're not anxious or have fear about the future, you're probably in denial stage. And that's hard to accept. It's like the fear, for me, for example, I'm thinking about having children and I'm worried. I'm not sure if that's the right choice or not, and I'm not alone with those thoughts. So how to manage it? Have conversations like we're having right now, talk to others, build a community around you that can sustain you. And then I'm going to repeat again, take action, call your MPs, lead out to them. We have lots of resources on our website on how to engage with your MPs, how to have conversation. You could do a conversation guide, how to host a conversation. So that's what we do a lot. That's kind of our main business. We bring people together online now, but or before COVID times in their home, and you have a conversation between your peers with a volunteer guiding it. And often what we see in those conversations is a lot of people who arrive were concerned about climate change, but they didn't think about it. And in the conversation, they realize that they have a joint fear and they convert it into hope, community, and action. Another thing to do is to connect to nature, like do the things that do you well, like human connection, purpose, action, and find this moment of relief and of break in between.
Well, I have to say thank you to you and all the activists that are working in this space, because you don't get to dip out, Lena. This is your life, and it must, I think, be quite burdensome for you.
Yes, it's been my life for the last 20 years. And I started as a teenager, pretty much like the student movement did. And at the time, there was so much hope. Like there were so many opportunities. We knew exactly the same as we knew now. And it's become more and more clear that we're living, at the time I thought it's the future. And now I realize climate catastrophe is now, it's my present, it's my life. And that mess has made it harder. But it also gives me hope. Like I have the privilege to working in a space. I can make a difference and I connect to others on a daily basis. And especially Climate for Change, we keep coming across people who for a very long time didn't want to think about it, and now through conversations changed their life and are now taking action, and that gives me so much hope for the future.
Well, I want to encourage people to go to climateforchange.org.au and engage with this amazing organisation. There are lots of other organisations out there that you can connect with. And this is my takeaway: make politics better. We can. We have power. We're not just little people without a voice. We can demand it from our MPs because, oh my gosh, the world relies on it. Thank you so much for that beautiful insight there, Lena. It was really lovely to have you on Broad Radio.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Lena. And I'll be getting my kids to write a letter to the MP because I reckon that's far more effective than, 47-year-old Nelly doing it. You get a letter from an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old and they go, oh.
Yeah.
Well, you're the school strike.
Yeah. Well, your local MP probably goes, oh, it's Nelly again. Is that Nelly? I recognise that handwriting. I know.
You want to be that person. You need to be the person where they're like, no, not that one again.
I am that person. Don't worry about that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lena. You have a great day. Now, we have... All right, so Nelly, it has been really bleak news, but we've decided that we want to seek out the positive in life, because sometimes it's the tiny moments, the mundane, the ordinary, the little things that really kind of lift your soul. And we've been asking on our social media this week, what is your happy news? Doesn't matter how big or small it is, but what is your happy news that has got you by? Tell me about what's been lifting you there, Nelly.
I'm just trying to make a really conscious effort, like not to pretend to be like, chipper and fine for the kids, but to pretend to be chipper and fine for the kids. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, to kind of, in a way,
Yeah.
like I can't let myself sit in the shit of this, because I don't want my kids to experience it. I do allow them to see, I do tell them if I'm stressed or, I'm having a hard day or I hate lockdown. But we try and do things like we've been colouring together, all three of us will sit down at the table and colour together. And that was really fun because it meant that we, had conversations and we laughed. We put music on, so I let them choose the music. They chose Rhett and Link. Oh, someone kill me, but, fun. Listening to music's lifted, obviously food, one day when we had the really big announcement of the extension, I'm like, we're having donuts for breakfast. That's what we're doing.
I love it.
The best.
That is so great.
Just trying to find those little moments.
Yes. Well, these are the sorts of things that we had lots of people sharing photos on our social media of the things that they've been loving. Lots of visits to the garden. We've had, we've got a gallery there of some photos there. Ro, there's Kathy's poppy, which reminds her of her dad. We've got beautiful photos of theirs. You've got Lily's there. That's Christine's orchid, I believe. We've got, that's Cess, our producer. She grew her first lemon. How exciting is that? What a good looking lemon. And that's Rose Violets, our beautiful producer Rose Violets there. And we've got, oh look, this is actually an upside down cocky that Brenda took that photo of the cocky hanging upside down in the tree, which I really loved. We've got a whole bunch of gorgeous photos. Oh, here, this is Jeff's chooks laid those eggs. He loved that.
Oh, look at the colour arrangement.
I know. Look at beautiful Jeff's chooks. They're doing okay, those girls. We've got so many gorgeous ones there. And this is from little Willow grew that. That's Katrina's daughter Willow grew that daffodil. So some beautiful things in the garden. And we've got actually some callers on the line right now. Now, watch me multitask, Nelly.
Yes,
this is really quite, it's a little bit hairy, let me tell you. I'm going to go firstly to Nicole, and I'm going to press that button, and we're going to say, hi there, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hello, Jo. How are you?
Oh, it's so lovely to hear you. Nicole, say hi to Nelly. Nelly's on the show as well.
Oh, that's right. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nelly. How are you?
Now,
I'm good, thanks.
Nicole, tell us about your beautiful moment that really lifted your soul in the last week or so of lockdown.
Absolutely. So I happened to be talking to my daughter-in-law, Emerson, last Thursday night, and we were FaceTiming each other. And as I was talking to her, she did an excited little squeal, and I said, what's going on? And she turned her phone around for me, and I could see my 5-month-old grandson rolling from his back to his front for the very first time.
Oh. What a moment. And there he is. That's Kyson there that we can see.
Look at his little Converse.
I know, isn't he gorgeous?
But Nicole, you were able to actually see that moment, the very first moment they roll over, which I remember was a big moment for my daughter when that happened.
Absolutely. Those milestones, and, being a grandparent is just, I can't tell you, it's just like even better if you can say that than when, you've got your kiddies. It's just a beautiful enjoyment to see them grow and watch them develop.
And what I love too is that you saw it on Zoom, which is sort of sad because you've obviously not been able to get a cuddle with Kyson for some time, but there's still positive in that, I suppose, that you saw it.
Yes, absolutely. I saw it. I didn't miss out on the milestone. And, even though we are all dealing with a significant relapse in our freedoms at the moment to be able to see our loved ones, but how good is it to have that technology that I could still experience that milestone?
That's true. I was thinking of, not that you want to, I don't want to diminish what anyone's going through, including me, but you think back to Spanish flu or other things like that, they wouldn't have had these options. At least we can connect via phone and Zoom
Exactly.
and all those things. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, Nicole, it's been lovely to chat with you on Broad Radio. Thank you for sharing that beautiful moment with Kyson.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you, Joe and Nelly. Thank you.
Absolute delight. Also on the phone we have, and now again, watch me. I'm going to multitask. See how high tech we are? It's amazing.
Excellent.
Hi there, Emily. How are you going?
Good. How are you?
Emily, tell us about your amazing good piece of news that you have.
Well, I went and dropped off some donations to a not shop just after the last lockdown ended, and went in and found a vase, which I thought was sort of nice. I thought it might be a little bit valuable, but not overly valuable. And anyway, got home and then did some research and found out that it's actually, my $5 vase is actually worth sort of probably $8,000 to $12,000.
What?
Oh,
Yeah, so it was a massive win. It was very exciting. And apparently it's
roadshow.
Best
Pardon?
ever.
It's like an
Yeah.
antique roadshow moment. My goodness.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. So apparently it's a very rare one. The people in the pottery world are very excited by it. And yeah, so it's going to auction later this year.
Going to auction?
How much did you pay for it?
$5.
$5. Wow. And I bet you stood there at the op shop thinking, this is a bit overpriced. A vase for $5,
Yeah.
actually $3.99.
I was like, will I get this? And I chucked it under the buggy and thought, I'll give it a whirl. And yeah, and it turned
Amazing.
out to be worth a bit. Yeah,
Wow.
so it's exciting.
That is
What
awesome.
do with the cash? Have you got plans for the cash?
Look, we've got a leaking roof, so it'll probably go to that. But I'll probably buy something nice for myself as well, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got to say, you've got quite the eye, because I would not have picked up that vase. So I'm impressed.
Thank you. Thanks.
All righty. Well,
I think it'll be. Pardon?
you go.
Oh, I think it'll be the one and only find like that I ever have. I think I've peaked.
That's okay. That's something that you would dine out on for the rest of your life. Every time you're at a dinner party, you should tell that story.
Absolutely. That should
I
go
will.
to.
I will. I'll use it.
Thanks so much, Emily. Lovely to have you on Broad Radio.
No worries. Take care.
Yeah.
And Nelly, in just a
Bye.
moment, oh my gosh, Emma Donovan is going to be joining us. That's after this. Well, Nelly, we've had a few pinch me moments here on Broad Radio over the last 6 months, and here is another one as we joyously welcome to the show, I think, one of the legends of Australian music, glorious songbird and proud Gumbanga Yamaji woman, Emma Donovan. Good morning, Emma.
Woohoo!
Good morning. Hey, thanks for having us.
Oh, it is so awesome to see you, Emma. You are part of the Donovan family in Australia. It's synonymous for music, with music, this incredible family that you're from. But can you tell us about your family, the Donovans, for people who may not actually be aware of your extraordinary influence on music in Australia?
Oh, pretty lucky. I always tell people that I'm the spoilt first granddaughter. People have heard of Casey Donovan. I'm the oldest cousin. I'm like the one that came first before everyone out of all the grandkids.
The OG.
The one that got the most musical influence, and I guess that had more time with my grandparents, who were the ones that started the music legacy, in our family, the Donovans.
So, how growing up with musical grandparents, was the music, always going to happen for you? Do you think? Like, is it among all your cousins and your siblings and so on, or are you, the standout?
It's funny because, I have a first cousin. They're still kind of coming. Like, there's one that's like 7, and we're first cousins, and I'm nearly 40 now, so there's a massive age gap, and like most Aboriginal families, our families are huge. There's great grandchildren now. And I think the beautiful thing about my musical family is that all my grandfather's music has been passed down. We all share it. And even my kids now, they're going to learn my grandfather's songs and the little Donovan, songbook that's, built over the years.
So how old were you when you started singing with, I believe it was your uncles and your mum and your grandparents? How old were you when you joined the band?
I kind of went out on my own. My mum discovered that I sang at 6. I got up and sang at a wedding reception. And would you believe it or not, I sang Stand By Your Man, which is a Tammy Wynette number, at a wedding. That's when Mum knew that I, had some kind of, song, a voice, And then it wasn't until a bit later, I guess, Mum would dress me up every year, make all these country music outfits, and send me to Tamworth. And then there was a whole bunch of us, I actually went under my father's surname, Counsellor, but the rest of all my family were Donovans, and I was like, Donovan was my mum's maiden name. So I was like, I'm not going into all these music categories as Emma Counsellor. I want to be Donovan, like the rest of my, uncles and aunties and cousins that were in Tamworth and doing all the singing too. So, yeah,
the image of you singing "Stand By Your Man," give him 2 arms to cling to, as like a little girl in Tamworth. That's going to stay with me.
Yeah, and you know what? People have a laugh. Even I have a little laugh. As much as I love the soul funk outfit, and collaborating with bands like the Pooper in Melbourne. My heart is country. I wear my country sleeves. I'll always be my mum's little black Tammy.
Your BT. I had the absolute joy recently of, this is a name drop, but I think you'll appreciate it, of interviewing Nardi Simpson for a writers' festival. Yeah, for her new book. And one of the things that we talked about, which I assume I wanted to ask you about as well, was the importance of like song lines and connection through music, not just in terms of enjoyment, but in terms of like culture and family and tradition and pride. How does that relate to your music?
Well, traditionally, like with Gumbanga and Dungari people, which is on my mother's side of the mid-north coast, New South Wales, a lot of our song lines of, we have our language, we have Motorbike Language Centre where we can speak our language, but a lot of the song lines of, they haven't been passed down and they haven't, continued. But what I like to say continues in my family traditionally is these old songs that, I had the honour of learning from my grandparents when, they wrote and sang music from the missionary days. And a lot of that for me was church music and, brings me back again to the country kind of gospel sounds and that. And to me, that's traditional music for me, and that's what I want to pass on now to my generation.
Sorry, you go, Jo.
Well, I was just going to say, Emma, you now, though, are writing your own songs, beautiful songs, and a lot of them in language, which is just gorgeous to hear. But you say that music has been a healing for you. In what way has it been a healing?
I think that music for myself, I'm a songwriter. I write a lot about, all different kinds of things, breakups, relationships, connection to country, connection to land and people. And a lot of them times, especially with some of the last albums I've done, it's been pretty hard. Even coming out of this lockdown and the pandemic has been really hard. And music will always kind of be that, that outlet for me. And I guess I say that it is healing for me because, that's what it does. That's the power of music. I believe it can heal.
I think you're right. I mean, it's interesting. I'm a comedian, so we always get the, that sort of idea of, well, laughter's the best medicine, and then we respond with, oh, you haven't tried very many good drugs. But I tend to think, for me, even as a non-musical person, it is actually music that's healing. And same, whether it's breakups or tragedy or death and like you say, during lockdown, it's been music that I've turned to as well. Like you can feel a change in your body depending on the music.
Yeah, and I think the beautiful thing about Aboriginal languages, like, you know, so many Aboriginal languages in this country, you know, wasn't spoken for years, and there's this big, you know, wave of, you know, our mob and our communities diving into naming our children language names, connecting and finding, you know, local, you know, names and places for country, and people, you know, they're celebrating that now, and there's a big, that's why I've always kind of wanted to, you know, continue. I think music makes me want to learn my language. A lot of the times in different bands and collaborative like musical projects, especially with like Black Armband years ago, there was a show that had, you know, 19 Aboriginal languages in it. How lucky was I to be a part of a, you know, show where I could rattle off all different, you know, different Aboriginal languages in one place. But I think the rest of Australia are celebrating them languages, and, you know, what comes with that is songs. And so, the more I pay attention and contribute more to that, the better I feel. And like I said, like that healing and sharing it with, you know, wider community.
Yeah, we all feel better. I mean, I find, I don't know if this is an ignorant thing to say, but I'll say it anyway. I find going to, you know, Black Armband, you know, performances and other performances when there's language that I don't understand, I still feel it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't have to literally understand the words to feel the benefits of the music and the lyrics.
Well, even growing up, like when I didn't know, you know, like the band Yothi Indi, and, you know, Gurumo, Yunapingo, I'm a little bit more familiar now with Yongomata and some of them languages and dialects and Darug. But, you know, I didn't know any of them songs and what, you know, the language of it and what it was about. But that's the beauty of it. You know, you don't have to know. You can feel something.
You know what I would love to see in our schools? Some of these beautiful songs in language taught to our kids, because we all remember being in school learning songs to help us sort of remember things, and what a great way to introduce language to all of Australia through beautiful songs.
Oh, look, I love it, and I write songs about this. And then more recently I wrote a song called Call Out, which is a song about, you know, that acknowledgement on the Kulin nations of, you know, Melbourne, where I live and where I call home now. This is not where I'm from, or it's not my country. But I feel like, you know, even coming, you know, to the wider community outside the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community, there's more of that acknowledging. There's more of mob, you know, everybody celebrating and everybody wanting to learn the local language, the local country, local songs. I feel a big change, and I want to be part of that.
Well, we do too. We're very excited that you're going to sing for us. So you're going to get yourself set up, and we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, you're going to sing live for us. We're very excited. Thank you so much, Emma. Well, at Broad Radio, we are growing because of the amazing partners that have joined us in our journey. And so we say thank you very much to Saba Organics, one of the world's only 100% certified organic range of skin and body care. We're really grateful that they have partnered with us, because whether it's hand wash or hand sanitizer or cleaning products for our home, we don't want to be covering our skin in toxins or chemicals. So how do we really know what is in the products that we use? Because I've learned recently, even when something is described as natural ingredients, that can mean they're still exposed to toxic herbicides and pesticides in farming, which obviously is really damaging to the environment and also not great for our skin. But Saba Organics is 100% certified organic, which guarantees no aluminium, no sulfate or parabens, and no toxic chemicals. I really love the Saba Organics Lemon Tea Tree and Kunzia hand wash, but you can check out their whole range at sabaorganics.com.
Australia's harsh sun is proven to visibly age women by up to 20 years faster than those in the US. That's why you need sunscreen every day. Ask your Chemist Warehouse pharmacist which sunscreen is right for your skin.
Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis? We've got you covered. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Well, it is my great joy to welcome to Broad Radio one of the legends of Australian music. She's just a songbird, and we're pleased to have her singing live for us, Emma Donovan. Hi, Emma, you good to go?
Yeah, I am. I'm excited to share this song, Murabai Tree, which is a song I wrote for our Gumbanga people, and it goes back to our Yuldara, which is our dreaming story of how our mob were created. And it tells a story of, mob being greedy, I guess, at that Murabai Tree. But what happened was that we became, there was two tribes. There was the mountain Gumbanga mob, and there was, the coast water, the saltwater people. So I just wanted to write this song so that, people get a better idea of how we come to be saltwater people.
We once were seeing mountain people. We once was so easy to please. We would all come together for the fruit from the Murabai tree. Till one day, one mob got greedy. They were leaving nothing but the leaves. This was the people of the mountain, eating the fruit of the Murabai tree. Eating the fruit of the Murabai tree. Up came the roots, then up went the people, holding on leaves sent to the sky. You look out on one day, people of the mountain, breaking the law of the Murabai tree. Now who was left but saltwater people? Gumbanga here, now walking the land. Oh, because of people of the mountain, eating the fruit of the Murabai tree. Yeah. Gumbangi, Gaya Murabai Gundi. I have been Duguluwegu Murabagundi Girwa. Hey! Gumbengi Gaya Murabagundi Girwa. I have been Duguluwegu Murabagundi Girwa. Murabagundi Girwa. Murabagundi Girwa.
Oh, Emma, that was just so beautiful. Your voice gives me goosebumps. It's just amazing. Thank you so much for singing for us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me that time to share. Thank you.
And you have an album coming out soon?
I've got an album with the Putbacks. It comes out in September, and it's an album called Under These Streets, which has been recorded here on Wurundjeri country in Melbourne. Yeah.
And hopefully we're going to be able to see you performing live if the planets align and the universe allows this to happen. We're hoping that we're going to see you out performing in festivals and pubs and wherever we can find you around town. Do you know if you have anything lined up?
Exactly. It's a little bit unpredictable. Like, I feel like we're kind of announcing gigs and festivals, and then stuff hasn't happened. But I always say when the time's right and when we're ready, I'll be there with a song.
Well, I tell you what, we're all grateful to all of the musicians and people in the live performance space for your incredible resilience, because we rely on you. So thank you for everything.
That's beautiful. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
and
really
big love to all the all our musos and everybody in the arts, and just stay safe, everyone.
Head along to Emma's website, emmadonovan.com, to purchase any of her music and find out about any gigs that she's got coming up. Emma, thank you so much. It's been amazing to have you on Broad Radio.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. We'll have more Broad Radio after this. Well, there was great celebration during the week when the AFLW expanded so that all of the teams now have an AFLW team. It includes Essendon, Port Adelaide, Sydney Swans and the Mighty Hawks, and the coach of the Hawthorn AFLW team joins us now, Bec Goddard. Good morning.
Morning, girls. I'm back.
Oh,
yeah.
Congratulations. I'm back. You know what it's like? It's like, when Harold Bishop was washed off the coast in Erinsborough on Neighbours, and he disappeared for 5 years, and then all of a sudden he turned back up with amnesia working at the Salvos. That's me.
Just like that.
Except I don't have amnesia. I remember how to do it. Don't worry.
This is good to know. So, I mean, you took the Adelaide Crows to a grand final and a premiership win in the inaugural year. Are you going to be able to do this in the inaugural year of the Hawks?
That's the plan. I mean, one thing I have learned in footy is that you've got to, sometimes if you under promise and then over deliver, it's a lot better. And you should never promise the number of wins and losses. You should just talk about, how else you're going to make your success. But I mean, quite truthfully, we're waiting for, sort of some of the rules around who we can draft, how many players we can sort of take from other clubs if they want to come over to Hawthorn, how that's all going to work. So we don't even really know what our list is going to look like yet. We know how we want to build it, but we've got to lay the foundations of the house for success and then play the footy.
And Bec, I know, like you, I can't help but have like COVID metaphors for obvious reasons, right? But I imagine you are like our chief health officer, just sitting there quietly, never say it, but just sitting there quietly going, I fucking told you so. I told you.
You see, this is the thing, like, I can never say that. I can let other people say that, you guys, but not me. But I think it is one of those things that, a few years ago when I left Adelaide, I wasn't really sure if I'd be back, and I had a bit of a foul taste in my mouth, I suppose, about footy and, where women sat in that, and particularly for women in leadership positions, whether that be coaching or other areas of footy clubs and departments. And we're definitely starting to change our way of thinking and the way that women can add value to traditionally male-dominated environments, in particular in sport.
There's a lot to unpack there in what you're saying, because we are very passionate here at Broad Radio about women in leadership positions and obviously gender equality. And I find it frustrating that you're the only female coach of an AFLW team. Why? Why is this happening?
Well, I think there's probably a few things to it. You know, COVID is absolutely one of those things that happened. It happened in a whole heap of industries, but footy was one of those ones where money, you know, also became really tight, and so people looked at ways, clubs looked at ways to be able to try and keep as many staff in under their football soft cap, and so others became a bit expendable. And so because of that, and also I think there's some complicating factors in that women haven't held these roles traditionally in football. And so they've had to pave a way in other careers, and they're very successful in their other careers and what they do. And so to be able to leave that to take a role in footy that is often, you know, like perhaps as an assistant coach, or not even an assistant coach, as a development coach, and, you know, only earn a tiny amount of money while trying to raise their families, you know, keep studying, or, you know, to teach full time, all of those things, they can't do it. They simply can't do it. But the biggest one is that I think we need to start actually having women in the conversation and interviewing them for these positions in the first place. And seems to be the stumbling block. There is a lot of interest in the AFLW now from people who weren't interested in it before. It's a way back into a football club. And so to start on that coaching journey, there's a group of, you know, former players, retired players in the men's space that look at their way back into a footy club and are using that as a pathway to do that.
Mm. Can I put a theory to you, Bec? Now, tell me, this could be completely off the rector, but as a female comedian, I get asked like all the time, are women funny? Are women funny? Even now, are women funny? And I always respond with, well, the question is, can you find women funny? And I think the same thing applies to a female coach. Can you accept the authority of a female coach? Like the money, the everything else, the, you know, talent pool, all of these things can be sorted out. There should be a female coach in the NBA. There should be a female coach in the AFL, let alone the AFLW. Do you think that there's still an issue of, can I see Bec as the boss?
Absolutely. And I think even like if we look at like from a player's perspective, right, they want to be legitimate. They want to be the real deal. You know, they want to be in the public eye and play their sport at the highest level, and people go, wow, you know, I'm taking them seriously. So what they've been used to is, you know, an entire lifetime in some circumstances of a guy just coaching them footy, whether that was their dad, their boyfriend, their uncle. And now they're coming into a professional football club, and they want the guy that's got the access to the footy IP, that's got the legend status at the footy club, that's with all of his mates who then come out to, you know, the club functions and present the footy jumpers. That makes them the real deal. That makes them legitimate. And I think our players actually don't understand that women are even being brought into this unconscious bias that, you know, women can't coach football because we haven't been in that space. We haven't been able to get to that status. So it is absolutely about, you know, whether people can see us in those positions. I remember when I left Adelaide, I think a journalist described me as divisive and opinionated. And then, you know, years later, I'm enigmatic and quirky. But also, you know, if you're divisive and opinionated, that sort of makes me think of Donald Trump, not of me in footy. You know, it's just because I was the only woman at the time and a voice of all of the same of what we're used to seeing in football, which is that same voice, which is what we define coaching and what we define leadership as, is wasn't he a strong leader? And in response to me, it's like, oh, she's good, but she's not quite ready yet, or she's too emotive, you know, but all those other qualities, those same qualities are really valuable to men in the men's world.
Also, and when you see men who traditionally we have had coaches who are male and divisive and opinionated, and they love that in a man.
That's right, because you're allowed to be that in that space, but it's a bit different when you finally get a woman in and that's like that. But I mean, I don't really what I don't want to do is make this argument, men versus women. What I'd love to, but in our football industries, is that there are so many great guys in it that want to see women do well. We need to be able to elevate those women and give them the chance first, rather than the flip way around. There's actually so many women that are ready, that have done all the courses, that are, you know, saying the right things, but we need to lose this idea of, oh, they're good, but they're not quite ready yet. Well, when will they be ready? Like, how long is the microwave going to keep going on for? Just give them the job. And if you still think they're not quite ready, just put a great senior assistant around them and see what can happen. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to lose a game of football because of the woman.
Yeah.
You know,
But
you're going to
also,
lose a game of football because of something else.
this sort of circular argument as well that, I mean, again, the same thing happens in comedy, in the media as well. It's like, well, we haven't got an experienced pool. Well, how are these women going to get experienced until you let them on the stage, you know, or give them coaching positions? Like, you can't, you know, it's literally impossible to get experience without opportunity.
Yeah, on the job is the most important thing. And, you know, we can talk about it forever, but really it's time. There are some great women available. The passage of time has come long enough. The game's growing rapidly, but we've got women ready to go. Let's just give them a go.
What's really exciting though, Bec, is the amount, I mean, we've seen girls football just explode since the AFLW began, and they all look up to you and see you as a real trailblazer and a role model, which you are. It's exciting to know that it's shifting from the ground roots up.
Yeah,
it is. And I even, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I'm back in Canberra for work at the moment, and I went out and watched some local footy here, and all of the grounds around the main women's game, there are lots of smaller ovals, and all of those grounds are filled with young girls, you know, playing footy with all the parents standing around. It was just completely normal and something that we wouldn't have seen 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And when you rock up to because, you know, I've got a footy background, you know, when you drive into the ground and you get your hot dog and you sit in the car and you watch it. When you rock up to a local game in Canberra, do you walk in like, you know, Beyonce's just walked in? Like, what's the
You're going to still pay my $2 for entry. And it's so funny. Like, I just love going to the local footy. It's the smell of the grass, and you can almost smell the urinals of the old community grounds as you're walking in. It's like toxic smell, but it's also a friendly reminder of your childhood and growing up. You know, Mwah! I love it. I mean, what woman says that?
None.
Yeah, look, sometimes if I just want to sit there quietly and just not let anyone know I'm on the footy, I just sort of take the glasses off and wear a hat, and nobody knows who I am.
Right, you go incognito. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I told I've got a 14-year-old, and one of her best friends is like, I can't tell you how obsessed she is with AFLW. And when I told her I was interviewing you, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was like the excitement. Like, I could see she was desperate to say, "Can I come?" But I'll give a shout out to Caitlin. There you go.
That's cool. That is really cool.
It's really beautiful because my daughter's just started playing footy, Bec, and she's the shortest and the skinniest in the team, and she's joined a team that has been playing for a couple of years, so she's learning the skills as well. But her love of I think it's the permission to be rough and muddy and wrestle and just get in and not care about anything but getting that ball is so uplifting for her. She just loves it so much. And I found I had to call myself out on a bias that I didn't realise when I first saw their team, because there's some really natural players. These girls that are just fast and really agile. And I was surprised, and I'm like, why am I surprised? That is a bias there. Because for years we've had football controlled by male thought. And I was like, of course there are girls that are natural footy players.
And even then, you know, like your other unconscious bias, you know, she's little and skinny. Like, I tell you now, one of the best players I ever saw in Victoria was Shannon McFerrin, and now she's retired now, but I think she's something like a 12-time All-Australian, Helen Lambert medalist, captain of Victoria for so many years, and she was just small, skinny, sleek, and just did the work of the little people so creatively. That's what your daughter's going to be. I can tell already without even looking at her. Tell her to keep that on, and she'll wear the long sleeves, all right?
Yes,
cover it up like Shane did too. You know, protect the bones, right? Whatever it does to make her feel better, she can do that.
Imagine what would have been said to Paddy Mills as he was coming up, you know, and approaching the NBA. He's little and skinny, you know, like he's one of the best players in the NBA. So, like you say, there's a function for everyone.
Yes. Now, I do have to just pick you up on something that you have put on your Instagram, Bec, that is where you claim to have the best Labrador And I have the best Labrador, whose name is Daisy, and you have two Labradors, it seems. But it made me laugh because Labrador owners are a special breed in ourselves, don't you think?
They are. They're human. I've obviously been out with mine this morning. I actually got a brown Labrador, so when Hawthorn wins a premiership, I can stripe him gold. But his name's Howard, and I named him after what I say is Australia's greatest Prime Minister. Obviously, John. He's got the same eyebrows, sort of bushy. And he loves footy. He goes everywhere with me, and he's a Hawthorn fan.
But there's another lab there too. There's a black one.
Stanley, yeah, he's a young one. He's a young one. I think he was sort of aiming for sort of Collingwood status. He's got a bit of a sort of a broken tooth. He's got like it sort of sits in the middle of the mouth and with a bit of an underbite. So that's sort of, aside from so we can stripe him white if Collingwood ever wins one. But he's got the teeth set there too.
I just know as a fellow Labrador, and my husband started a Labrador parents WhatsApp group because we because you become obsessed with they're just such big personalities.
I've got to interrupt here and say the view from where I'm sitting as a dog lover is that Labrador owners are all up yourselves. You're completely up yourselves.
We are.
Stop talking about those fucking dogs.
But that's because they are the best dogs, don't you reckon, Bec? I mean, it's just a fact.
But they are. I had a beagle before I had Howard and Stanley, and I named him Crawford after Shane Crawford, obviously another Hawthorn great. But the beagle was nowhere near like the Labrador. The Labradors are just unbelievable. What I can't.
Don't you give me your diversity spiel with your beagle, right?
Yeah. Look, I tried to mix it up. But they just weren't interested in humans. Whereas the Labrador, they're addicted.
Yes.
Maybe the beagle just didn't like you, Bec.
Okay, we could put it to that, but I find that hard to believe.
I find it hard to believe also.
I would too, actually.
Anyway, the fact is, though, Bec, it means if you are a Labrador owner, as I am, it means your house is full of hair, and I'm guessing you've got furniture that's chewed through, and you just can't have nice things.
Oh, a white... Yeah, I got a white. I had a white leather couch. I don't know why I had that. It's gone now. The hot water system, that was eaten. The coffee machine, that was eaten. My wallet at one point, that was eaten. Yeah, there were quite a few things that went through Stanley when he was young. And now Howard, he's living a happy life, his best life here. Got his own couch, They're great. Maybe I can get on the WhatsApp group, and we can all sort of share the stories together.
I'll add you to the WhatsApp, the Labrador parents group.
Football. I can't believe I'm going to say that sentence, but can I bring us back to football?
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard for a comedian to be sincere, but can I sincerely say to you, as a mum with daughters, I'm so fucking proud of you. I really am. It's really important.
Thanks, guys.
To have role models like you that they can look up to. And I know role models are heavy, thing to carry, but we need them. It's an honour.
It's honestly, it's a badge of honour. I'm glad that I can do it. I'm glad that I'm back, and I'm not going to be quiet. Like Audre Lorde said, I'll be deliberate and afraid of nothing, and I can't wait to get stuck back into it.
That gave me chills. Be deliberate and afraid of nothing. Oh, I love it.
Jesus, this is getting out of control. I'm going to have to start. I don't have a team, so I am available.
No! You've converted her to the Hawks.
Looks like it's the Hawks.
I'm going to be deliberate and afraid of nothing. I'm writing that down. Deliberate and afraid of nothing. Well, Bec, thank you so much. I'm a Collingwood supporter, so it hurts me to say go Hawks on your behalf. But I can't wait to see you guys hit the competition next year. It's super exciting. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. I know you've got to go off and walk the dogs perhaps, so it's been lovely to have you.
Can the Hawks.
Thanks for having me, girls. Go the Hawks.
Nelly, I can't believe it.
Yes.
What a show we've had, Nelly. It's been awesome. I have to go and sort out my beautiful Labrador Daisy. You've got a dog. What's your dog's name?
So I've got Chewy the Labradoodle and Ralph, we don't know. We got him rescue something.
Yeah.
Something small.
Something.
And smelly.
Small and smelly. Perfect. Hey, thanks for spending the last hour and a bit with me. It's been absolutely delightful. We'll see you again soon, and all the best in lockdown 2700. We'll be okay.
Yeah,
we'll get through.
The love that shall never speak its name.
Take care, darling. And we'll have more Broad Radio next week. We'll see you then. Bye.